This is Morgan of RacerX Performance. With today's video, we're going to be dyno tuning this first gen DSM. We actually started working with this car last fall to get an initial calibration and all the part throttle tuning completed. After some downtime for a clutch replacement and a few upgrades, it was time for the fun stuff. Strapping it down on the all-wheel drive dyno at Countersteer and seeing how far we could take it. Diamond Star Motors. This is the car where the DSM legend began back in 1990. They actually had 3 cars with different branding: the Mitsubishi Eclipse, the Eagle Talon, and the Plymouth Laser. The Laser had the shortest time span among the 3, only in production from 1990 to 1994. So to find one of these unicorns is pretty special, and we were thrilled at the opportunity to tune it. Coming from the factory with the legendary 4G63 4-cylinder engine, equipped with a 14B turbo, the car made about 195 horsepower with 203 foot-pounds of torque. While that's not very much by today's standards, back in the 1990s it was plenty to make this one of Car and Driver's magazine's 10 best list for 3 years. The owner upgraded to a 16G turbo, supported by a 340 fuel pump, supplying 700cc injectors. We ran a 50-50 mix of E85 and Pump 93. Most people running similar setups reported their cars running about 300 horsepower to the wheels. So we set out to get at least that much and see how far we could go.
And let's bring you inside. This is this beautiful 1G that you guys have may seen me post on before. And strapped down, it's a front wheel drive. We're on the all-wheel drive dyno. So this is a great place to bring all the Evos and the VR4s and any all-wheel drive, and so we're getting the work in today. Gonna get ready to fire it back up for a 1G with a 16G turbo, and we're running a little bit of an E85 93 mix, but generally people have made about 320 to the wheels. 320 to the wheels on this setup, so we're actually doing a little bit better than that. Right now we got a high of 376 and 375 torque to the wheels. That was our max. We made a couple more runs after that, trying to turn up the boost a little bit more. Got a little bit of heat soak, so we came down a little bit. So we let things cool down for a little bit here. We're going to fire it back up in a minute. I'm going to get in here and we're going to see what our next pull is going to look like. So take you guys along for the dyno pull today. All right. So we're tuning this one on ECM Link, as we do for many DSMs. Let's get things fired up here. I'm actually going to give the phone to Christian. Hey Christian! Clearly I won't be able to hold this while we're doing this. I'm on the Facebook Live. Would you mind just hold that for us while we do this run? the knock retard. We gained like a tiny little bit there from our first one. We're guessing the boost didn't go up, so we might have to turn it up more. It's just get a little deeper. Too much. I wanted to go 85 all the way. We'll clean all the things out. Still, for this 53 makes running at about 11s. Not bad. So here's the story. To run on this manual manual boost controller, and what it can do, as you can see right here, we're getting a little like a spike, up to about 26, 27 pounds of boost, which is great. But because we're not running that wastegate solenoid, it can't hold it. So it's kind of typical. So the most it's going to hold about this 23, 24, and so that's going to kind of limit our our ability to add any more boost. Turning it up won't help us. We can just we'll get a higher spike here, but it won't carry that for us. Do a nice job, as I mentioned before, still holding this 23, 24 all the way up to red line. Basically, well, here we're down to about 21 at red line, 22 at red line, so it's holding it pretty good. That's the whole system's operating pretty well. But if we want to go higher, we'll just have to change that out, as I mentioned. No knock, which is great, and our fuel trims are staying right in line with our fuel is right in line with what we're aiming for. So I think that's gonna be a wrap for what we're gonna do in terms of boost for power today. We're gonna switch it around and work on the part throttle stuff a little bit, and we're done. Sweet. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I'm very happy. Really.
This is my customer. So Christian's pretty happy with things today. I think we got what we were looking for out of this part of the portion. So as I mentioned, guys, I'm gonna kill the video here, but about to go and switch over and just do some part throttle stuff. Just work through the cruise zones, make sure we already did this, but I just want to just kind of recheck, make sure all the fueling is proper for the cruising part of things, and then yeah, we'll call it a day at this point. As always, make more upgrades and come back later. But thanks everybody who's been able to watch today, and RacerX Performance is here when you're ready. Take care, guys. Okay, so let's do a little bit of data analysis on the last dyno poll that we did there. As I mentioned, we're using ECM Link to tune this car. ECM Link is pretty much been the primary tuning platform for first gen and second generation DSM cars. You can tune them on AEM version 2 and some other things as well. It's pretty much been the popular one. It's a little bit older, but it's really still relevant, and I like a lot of things about it. So what we're looking at here is the data log from that last poll from yesterday. So we have all the fields that we want to track: RPM, timing, this AFR ratio. This is the AFR from the map, and this is the actual AFR from the gauge over here. So all these are represented here. We have a throttle position, we have our knock retard, we have the boost pressure. A lot of those are the things we're going to be looking at. One of the other things I really like about ECM Link is you've got these detachable maps. You can actually either keep this window on top, or you can move it and detach it from the larger window that it's involved in, and you can track the data to the log, which is very nice. So as we're moving through this dyno poll here, if we look over here on the other side of the screen, we can see the highlighted sections actually represent where we are at in the dyno poll. Now, obviously, it's really hard to do this in the car, right? Obviously, you're just on a laptop in the car. You don't have two big, video monitors to work with. So sometimes it's easier for me just to get out the car and actually just, do a little bit of analysis on the side there, and then go back in and make some adjustments. So let's take a moment just to talk about one of the things that I mentioned during the dyno poll, and was maybe a little bit hard to hear. The owner of the car is running a manual boost controller, and while they're inexpensive and they kind of do the job, they're kind of set it and forget it types of things, and you don't have any control over what's happening once you've set it. You just kind of keep changing it until you get to the boost pressure that you're looking for. Make sure you're not getting knock and the other things that would be corresponding to that, but there's no adjustment to it once you're done with it. And one of the common factors that happens with it is you often get what we call a little bit of a boost spike, which is what we're seeing right here. This is the boost spike, where we ran up to about, looks like 27 pounds. Yeah, 27 pounds of boost, which is great. But the problem is that, as you can see, the line's going to come down here. And this isn't so bad on this car. So we're coming down to 24, and then we'll roll slowly as we go through the RPMs up to about when we get to about 6,000 or 7,000, it's going to start to come down. It's 23 now, and then it's going to end up in 22 by the time we reach, but not even 6,000. We're at 5,971 RPM. So you can see that this line is slowly coming down. Not too bad. A lot of cars I've seen that comes down much more dramatically. But what the problem here is, as I mentioned, so you kind of get a boost spike, and if we kept turning the boost up, this would just get higher and higher, but this line would continue to be like this. So you're not able to maintain that boost level across the whole RPM range, or essentially across the whole power band that you're trying to get through. So that kind of provides a little bit of a limit for you, you know, it's two things. One, this can be a little bit of a bad thing. You keep turning up that manual boost control, you might get 30 pounds, whatever. You're probably going to get some knock at that point in time, and then it's going to calm down. You're really not going to get any horsepower gains that you were really looking for. So what I suggested to the owner is, as generally is the case, is to go with a 3-port boost solenoid. That will allow you to manage the boost, basically the wastegate duty cycle, through the calibration, through the tuning process. And we can manage that and be able to basically keep this line up here as high as we can. And you know, we can even lower it if we find areas where we need to manage, you know, boost against knock or otherwise. So that's the advantage of having a 3-port or 4-port boost solenoid, and so we'll work toward that next time with the owner. Okay, and one other data analysis tool that I like to use is this Megalog Viewer. Megalog Viewer from Megasquirt. Essentially, if you work with Megasquirt, you can obviously obtain Megalog Viewer, but Megalog Viewer works with a lot, basically any, you know, comma separated value file that most of the standalones or data loggers will create for you. So it works with a bunch of different systems. So essentially, we take this data log and interpret it over here. Evo's ECM Link does a great job of being able to do a nice representation, be able to walk you through the data here, and you can, as I mentioned, see all of your values, you know, change without the, you know, throughout the table. And as I mentioned, you can see them within the table. Not every you know, engine management system has that in the software, so that's kind of nice. And Megalog Viewer has something similar here, but we're not really going to be focused on that. The main thing that I like to use here is with this their histogram table. It allows you to set up, you know, you can create your own calculated fields and so on, but essentially we're going to look at an XY, you know, axis of RPM and load factor, which is essentially manifold pressure or boost pressure, the way they interpret it in the ECM Link. And so you can choose, you know, your Z-axis here and look at the different things and see how they look. So here we're looking at our essentially our AFR error, which means if we want to be like around 100%, that means our AFR matches our map exactly. You know, if we're over 100, then you know, maybe it's okay to be a little bit over 100. It means we've got a little bit more fuel than we asked for, so we put more, you know, it's more fuel than the map was requesting. And if we're lower, somewhere in the 90s or below that, then we're getting less fuel than we were looking for. So one of the things I look at is just to kind of quickly glance and see that everything is within the range here. We got a couple 108s here, and I think I have an idea about that, but it's not a big problem. Other things you might want to look at, we have down here, we might look at, and we could see knock over here. There really wasn't any knock to be concerned with in the tune yesterday. You see a tiny little creep up here. That's 0.4 degrees, nothing to worry about. Another 0.4 degrees back here at the beginning of the pull, where we put a lot of, basically we were lugging the engine a little bit there at about 2,500 RPM. So there was no real concerns. It has to be, you know, maybe 1 degree or better before we start thinking about any adjustments on this side. So that was pretty good. So other things you would look at here in the histogram, you might look at, let's see what our actual AFR was. And you know, in our map, we were targeting about 11, mostly through the runs here. So we see 11s and 10.9s, a couple 10.8s, and out far at the end of the map at 10.7 at the highest boost. So all of that seems to be in line with what we were targeting with this E85/Pump 93 50/50 mix. So what else we can look at? It's important things to look at include, I also like to look at the injector duty cycle. This is a very important one here because once you start getting above 85% injector duty cycle, then you run the risk of getting lean and turning into a lean spot. And I think in the past we had a little bit of an issue with the injectors for this car last year. Now we can see the highest we were getting to was maybe 77.5%. So definitely with the right size injectors for the fuel pump and everything we were running there, so that came out pretty good. Anyway, the point here is just that there's lots of ways of looking at the data, and you want to take a little bit of time just to now analyze it all, and that will help you with some spots in, you know, in your tuner you can maybe find a little bit more power or a little bit more safety, and that's that.